PotomacBeads.com, and I want to introduce to you a new series of YouTube videos that are going to be short episodes designed to make you a better beader. These are going to answer essential questions and tips and techniques that you should know to improve your skills. If you have any questions or want to see anything in particular, feel free to comment below and let me know exactly what you want to see to make you a better beader. Hi, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to go over with you the difference in a bunch of the different check shape drops that came out recently. There's been kind of a rush to the market with different shapes, and one of the latest shapes that's come out is the actual 2-hold drop. Now, I have some items out here that you wouldn't necessarily think of as a drop, but a lot of patterns you can substitute one thing for the other thing because different items can be used because they are similar in size. Likewise and adversely, some patterns will call for one thing and absolutely only need that one thing. A lot of times pattern designers take time to figure things out, to try out the exact shape that they're working with, and it's up to you if you want to try a different shape in place of one or the other. But the thing that I wanted to show today was the variance in a lot of these 2-hold drop shapes and show you the difference in the size. Some of them you may be familiar with and some of them you may not be. I'm actually going to start on the right. I'm going to work my way to the left, kind of going along with popularity of what the beads are and what their size is. So the first one that I have actually out here is a Zoli Duo. The Zoli Duo, some of you may be familiar with. It is almost like a comma shape bead, and it is flat on one side. Because it is flat on one side, the designer of the Zoli Duo decided to make a left and a right side. There are projects that will call for both the left and the right bead, and you will need the left and the right. That is because, again, they are flat on one side and puffed on the other side. So if you're doing a pattern and it calls for a right and a left and you think, oh, I can use a right and a left, you're going to notice a flat and a rounded side when you're working with them. These are the Zoli Duo lefts. The way to actually know what size they are, or what direction they are rather, is to hold them like they are a comma there. Whatever way the tail goes to, that is the left right there, because it's going to the left. If I had a right in my hand, the tail, when the big side is up, would be going to the right. So if you have some Zoli Duos, you mixed them up, that's the way to tell the right and the left. The Zoli Duo size is going to be 5 by 8 millimeter when you're looking at the Zolis. Again, there's a left and a right, and they are flat on the back of whatever side you are looking for. That little tail is going to go towards that side. So the left, the tail goes to the left, and the right, the tail goes to the right. Closest in shape to that is going to be the Paisley Duo. The Paisley Duo is a little bit bigger. It is, it says 8 by 5, but it's a tad bit bigger when you're looking at it here. That's because the center part is actually going to be a little bit larger. This is probably like an 8.5, whereas this is like a 7 point something, but they round down or round up. The Paisley Duo, unlike the Zoli Duo, is flat or a tiny bit puffed on both sides. That was a wonderful idea because you do not need a right and a left to confuse it. If I want to do something where I have the right or the left and they sit together almost like a yin-yang, I only need one tube of beads. So that's going to be the Paisley Duo. Again, all of these have 2 holes, which allow you to actually pin it down a little bit. So it's not like a teardrop that would be floating free, like a check drop, but this actually you can pin down because it has those 2 holes. Going on then from the Paisley Duo, the next one that I have here is the Amos bead. The Amos is a puka bead, meaning that Puka designed the bead and then it was produced. It fits along with the Cheops and the Ios and the Arcos and the Minos, some of her other shapes. So these are the Amos Puka. The Amos Puka is a teardrop, and ding, 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 5 by 8. So again, you can see kind of that trend of these all being the same size. Now, for a pattern, if it calls for a Zoli Duo or a Paisley Duo, a lot of times those are going to be interchangeable. Because the Amos goes straight up and is a true drop, you may want to try it before you try to switch any of these out. Like the actual Zoli Duo bead, the The Amos, again, is flat, but it's flat on both sides like the Paisley Duo. So that way it doesn't matter, and because it doesn't have a direction that the top is going, you can use the front or the back. An older shape that some of you may have seen before is the Nibbit. The Nibbit I pulled out just because it is kind of that carrot shape, almost drop shape, and it's a triangular shape that is thicker on the bottom and thinner at the top. So this is the Nibbit bead. And the Nibbit bead goes really, really well in a circle. I've done some bezeling with it, and the Nibbit itself is 6 by 5 millimeters. So it's not quite as long as our Paisley, Zoli, or Amos bead. But it does have kind of that drop shape to it. So that's why I put that here. Then recently we did get in the Drop Duo round and the Drop Duo. The Drop Duo round is 5 by 7 millimeters. And you want to think of it almost, it has that kind of seed look to it that when you pick it up, it almost looks like, especially in some of the colors, that it could be sunflower seeds. And like everything else, it has 2 holes, hole through the top, hole through the bottom. It is 5 by 7 millimeters. So again, it's going to be a little bit smaller than the Amos, and it actually sits a little bit more puffed than the Amos. It has a little bit more of a puffed shape to it. So that's going to be the rounded Drop Duo. The reason we called it rounded is so that we could identify that the top is not sharp and tight into a V like the Amos. Additionally, it's not sharp and tight like the V, like the Drop Duo bead. The Drop Duo bead is our smallest here. It's 3 by 6 millimeter, and it actually fits in a lot of places that you can just kind of put it in. It looks like little flower petals, and because of its pure kind of size, it is going to fit in a lot of creases, a lot of crevices. A lot of the bails that you may already have around crystals, you can slip these in along the end, grab a nice flowering or leaf effect as well. Again, 2 holes, a hole at the top, hole at the bottom, and that is going to be the Drop Duo bead. So we have the Drop Duo, which is a 3 by 6, and then the rounded Drop Duo, which is the 5 by 7. Another newer bead that I threw in here, because again, it kind of is the same shape, is the Vexolo bead. The Vexolo bead is a little bit different than the others because it's not a teardrop shape. It's more of a long isosceles triangle shape. Like the Diamond Duo also, it has a rise in the top that it looks like it. So it has a rise in the top to make it appear that it is slightly faceted at the top. The Vexolo is the longest of our beads, and it is 5 by 8, which when you hold it up, because of its shape, it looks a little bit longer, but actually it's right the same size. And along the bottom is going to be that 5 millimeter. So a lot of these beads are all the same sizes. They're just slightly different in their cut and in their design. They all have kind of that dropping effect that would be nice to use in bezeling, that it creates an easy bezel because it's thinner on one side, as well as some decorative ideas for the outside of fringe. The nice thing with all of these is it gives you a really, really good option and beads to play with. What I usually suggest when there's a large number of beads that are out that are similar in shape, grab a couple. You don't have to grab them all. Find some patterns if you want to, if you don't want to create your own, that use some of the beads already. That way you know that you have a use for them, and then play around with substituting them for some other beads in some of your patterns. If you know that you have a bead that has a super duo on the end, go ahead and try out one of the round duos there at the end just for a different look. So try out some of your older patterns with some of your newer beads. Also, I have the lovely kind of pastels and lusters here, but if you get neutral colors like the Crystal Labrador or the Jet, then you have a lot of options to actually match with some of the beads that you may already have, which is always awesome because then you don't have as much of an investment. So I'd like to do these little product spotlights for you guys to answer some questions that have come to us. That's the greatest thing about having a bead store, is that we get to have the whole range of spectrum of what questions you have as retail customers, as online customers, as designers, and as wholesale customers as well. So we kind of have our feet in everything, which is a really great perspective, I think, in order to bring you guys exactly what you want, answer questions that you may have, clarify things, and make sure that you are making the most informed decisions as you shop for your projects and actually design and create. Again, these are just some of the 2-hole drop shapes that I pulled off the wall to go over with you today. The other thing you can do is subscribe to this YouTube channel. You'll get regular updates when I do things like this and have the product spotlights or answer confusions. You'll also get videos on new projects and new design and new ideas, so you can subscribe to this channel. You can also check us out if you want to shop for anything at PotomacBeads.com and PotomacBeads.eu. We'll also put links below the video in the little date stamp and the publish date. There's a little show more button you can click on there to purchase some of these materials as well. As always, thank you so much for checking this out and watching the video. Hopefully you learned some cool facts and try it out. Try interchanging and switching up some of the different beads in the patterns that you create or the patterns that you make, and get your feet wet in trying out some of these new 2-hold drop check shapes.